From underground activists and digital cypherpunks, to billion-dollar coins, government standoffs, and a vision for the next evolution of the internet. This is the full story of crypto, where it came from, how it evolved, and what's coming next. This is The Rise of Crypto. Full history in 30 minutes. Welcome to PluggedInCrypto, your connection to crypto. Before Bitcoin, there were cypherpunks, a loose collective of cryptographers, coders, and digital privacy advocates who saw the internet as a new frontier for freedom. In the 1990s, they warned about surveillance, censorship, and the power of centralized systems. Their response? Build tools that made privacy and decentralization possible by default. They weren't just hobbyists, they were idealists with code. They dreamed of digital cash, anonymous messaging, and distributed power. Bitcoin didn't appear out of nowhere. It was the result of decades of work by these rebels with a cause. To the cypherpunks, cryptography wasn't just math, it was a political weapon. They believed privacy was a right, and code could protect it better than law. The famous phrase, "Cypherpunks write code," wasn't a slogan, it was a mission. Tools like PGP encryption, anonymous remailers, and digital pseudonyms weren't science fiction. They were real, working systems that let people speak, trade, and organize without revealing their identity. This mindset, distrust in authority and belief in math, became Bitcoin's DNA. Before Bitcoin, there were many attempts at digital cash, and all of them failed. David Chaum's DigiCash in the 1990s was too early and required trust in a central authority. Nick Szabo's BitGold solved many problems but never launched. Wei Dai's B-Money proposed anonymous markets with a shared ledger but lacked implementation. These weren't dead ends, they were stepping stones. Each one solved part of the puzzle, but not the whole thing. In 2008, right after the global financial crisis, a user named Satoshi Nakamoto posted a 9-page white paper on a cypherpunk mailing list. The title? Bitcoin, a peer-to-peer electronic cash system. It wasn't just a paper, it was a manifesto. It combined old ideas with new code, solving double spending without a trusted third party. The white paper was elegant, radical, and practical. The cypherpunks instantly understood its implications. This wasn't just a new kind of money, it was a new kind of trust. In January 2009, Satoshi mined the first Bitcoin block, the Genesis block, embedding a message about bank bailouts. It wasn't a coincidence, it was a statement. The old financial system was broken. Bitcoin was the alternative, one that didn't require permission, banks, or borders. Early adopters like Hal Finney ran nodes, mined coins, and helped test the system. The network slowly grew, attracting more cypherpunks, libertarians, coders, and eventually, the world. Today, it's easy to see Bitcoin as a price chart or an investment, but that misses the point. Bitcoin was born from a fight for freedom. The cypherpunks weren't chasing Lambos. They were building tools to resist surveillance, censorship, and centralized control. They gave us the foundation, not just for Bitcoin, but for Web3, privacy tools, and the entire decentralized movement. Their vision still echoes today. Some cypherpunks like Hal Finney helped launch Bitcoin. Others faded into the background, but their fingerprints are everywhere. In Bitcoin's code, in its culture, in the idea that math can replace middlemen, and that protocols, not people, should define rules. Without the cypherpunks, Bitcoin wouldn't exist. And without Bitcoin, their ideas might have stayed fringe. By the time Satoshi arrived, the table was set. The community, the ideas, the failures, they all led here. It's no wonder Bitcoin didn't emerge from a corporation or a government. It emerged from the fringes, from thinkers who wanted to change the world with code. One person wrote 9 pages, rewired global finance, and then disappeared. Today we chase the greatest mystery in tech. Who is Satoshi Nakamoto? It starts on Halloween 2008. An email lands on the cypherpunk mailing list titled Bitcoin P2P eCash paper. 9 pages, plain English, jaw-dropping ambition. 10 weeks later, Block 0, Bitcoin's Genesis block, comes alive. For the next 2 years, Satoshi answers hundreds of forum posts, improves the code, even warns early miners how to fix bugs. Then, April 2011, a final forum message, "I've moved on to other things." And poof, no more posts, no more emails. The breadcrumbs. In the white paper, Satoshi writes color and organize with a U, suggests holiday instead of vacation, and signs off late at night UK time. Yet the Git commits often appear around 3 a.m. London, prime time for California. Their C++ style is old school, like someone who learned to program in the 90s. And the biggest clue? About 1 million bitcoins, worth tens of billions, mineable by Satoshi's gear, still untouched. Hal Finney, first to reply to the white paper. Brilliant cryptographer, lived 4 blocks from a man actually named Dorian Nakamoto. Hal mined early, received the first Bitcoin transfer from Satoshi, and sounded a lot like the white paper's author. But Hal died in 2014 of ALS, never claiming the mantle and denying it to the end. Nick Szabo coined BitGold in 1998, eerily similar to Bitcoin. Linguists say his blog posts match the white paper. He denies it, points east to a team of people, and keeps researching smart contracts. Adam Back invented Hashcash, the proof-of-work puzzle Bitcoin still uses. British expat in Malta, now CEO of Blockstream, says the timing doesn't fit. Then there's Len Sassaman, privacy wunderkind, cryptography PhD, prankster. The Bitcoin client goes silent the day Len's obituary hits in 2011. Coincidence? Maybe. In 2014, Newsweek plastered Satoshi found over a photo of retired engineer Dorian Nakamoto. Dorian, a humble model train fan, had never heard of Bitcoin. The story cratered. Dorian lawyered up. The hunt intensified. Then there's Craig Wright, who claims he's Satoshi. In 2016, he staged a public proof, but never produced the private keys. In May 2024, the UK High Court ruled unequivocally, Craig Wright is not Satoshi. Still, the mystery refuses to die. In 2025, attorney James Murphy sued the US Department of Homeland Security, alleging the government already knows Satoshi's identity. Around the same time, Hollywood greenlit a film based on the Satoshi affair. New suspects pop up weekly. Jack Dorsey even trended for a weekend, yet none can move those dormant coins. So why vanish at all? 1. Legal safety. Creating unlicensed money can earn you a SWAT team, ask eGold or Liberty Reserve. 2. Philosophy. Bitcoin's whole point is leaderless money. 3. Mystique. A faceless founder keeps the focus on code, not charisma. And it still matters, because if those million coins ever move, markets will quake. Satoshi is crypto's anonymous patron saint. So, who is Satoshi Nakamoto? No one, and everyone who runs a node. A ghost who vanished, but left behind freedom in code. Bitcoin is often called digital gold, but what actually happens when you tap send? In the next few minutes, we'll peel back the buzzwords and show how the system really ticks. Money is just accounting. For 500 years, merchants have relied on ledgers to record who owns what. The catch: someone, usually a bank, must guard the ledger. If they fudge the numbers, you're broke. Bitcoin replaces that single trusted bookkeeper with math and a network that never sleeps. So, what is a blockchain? Imagine every 10 minutes we bundle a bunch of transactions into a page called a block. Each block contains 3 things: a list of payments, a reference number for the block before it, and a cryptographic puzzle piece called a hash. Chain those pages together and you get a public, time-stamped diary of every Bitcoin ever moved. Change one character in an early page and every later hash explodes. Tampering is instantly obvious. Hashes are fingerprints. Bitcoin uses SHA-256, which turns any input into a 64-character string that looks random, but is totally deterministic. Feed in hello, and you'll always get the same hash. Change it to hello, capital H, and the fingerprint is unrecognizable. That sensitivity is how the chain spots even microscopic edits. Enter the miners. To add a new block, you must find a hash that starts with a certain number of zeros. No shortcut exists, you just keep guessing. Each guess burns electricity, proving you spent real-world resources. That's proof of work. The first miner to land a valid hash broadcasts the block. The network checks it, and the winner gets paid in newly minted Bitcoin plus fees. Right now, the reward is 3.125 BTC. 4 years ago, it was double. Why the shrinking payout? Every 210,000 blocks, about 4 years, the reward halves. Satoshi coded only 21 million coins into existence. By slashing the faucet every cycle, issuance trends towards zero. Creating digital scarcity, you can audit down to the Satoshi. But miners aren't the police. nodes are. A full node is any computer running Bitcoin Core that stores the entire blockchain and independently verifies each rule. Correct formatting, valid signatures, no double spends. There are tens of thousands worldwide. If a bad actor tries to break the rules, honest nodes simply refuse the block. Consensus emerges without a CEO, government, or HQ. How do you actually own Bitcoin? Not by holding coins, but by controlling a private key, a long random number only you should know. From that private key, you derive a public key and a human-friendly address. When you spend, you create a digital signature that proves you own the funds. The network validates the signature and records the spend in the next block. Bitcoin tracks unspent outputs, UTXOs. Think of each output like a digital cashier's check. Spend it once and it's forever marked used. Why bother with all this complexity? Because trust is expensive. Banks take fees, governments can censor, and ledgers get hacked. Bitcoin flips that. The software is open source, the ledger is public, and anyone on Earth with an internet link can verify the money supply in under an hour. You don't need to trust miners, exchanges, or even Satoshi. Just run the code. In short, Bitcoin is an ever-growing, tamper-evident ledger, secured by energy and watched by thousands of independent auditors. No middlemen, no business hours, no borders. In 2009, Bitcoin was an obscure open-source project. Today it moves presidents, Wall Street, and protesters alike. Let's unpack how a bit of code flipped economics, politics, and technology on their heads. Crisis breeds innovation. The 2008 financial meltdown vaporized trillions and trust. By 2011, Occupy Wall Street packed Zuccotti Park waving "End the Fed" signs. In the camp's free speech Wi-Fi zones, a new word kept popping up: Bitcoin. A money system with no central bank sounded tailor-made for a generation done trusting bailouts. From geeks to gold 2.0. Over the next decade, Bitcoin morphed into a store of value. In early 2025, BTC rose over 15%, while gold funds logged their first outflow in a year. Pension funds now call it digital gold, sliding a 2% allocation next to bullion. Wall Street waved the white flag. On January 11, 2024, the SEC greenlit spot Bitcoin ETFs. Suddenly, Grandpa's brokerage account could buy BTC without a wallet. 1 year later, those ETFs held over $100 billion and helped push Bitcoin to fresh highs. Resistance was futile. Bitcoin's neutrality turned it into a political hot potato. In 2022, Canadian truckers had their bank accounts frozen. Bitcoin kept their fuel tanks full. When Russia invaded Ukraine, activists routed millions in aid through borderless BTC addresses. Each crisis broadcast a lesson. Blockchains don't take sides, they just settle transactions. Nations began experimenting. El Salvador grabbed headlines in 2021 by making Bitcoin legal tender. But by 2025, under IMF pressure, Congress made it voluntary again. The Central African Republic clings to a Bitcoin plus gold model. Argentina and Paraguay flirt with similar moves. Bottom line? Governments are still figuring out how to coexist with a currency they can't print. Bitcoin congestion forced builders to innovate. The Lightning Network ballooned 400% since 2020, powering coffee payments and micro-streaming sats. Ordinals turned the blockchain into an uncensorable art gallery. And new plug-in sidechains like drive chains hint at a modular, upgradable Bitcoin. Critics still chant, Bitcoin boils oceans, but the data's changed. By 2025, 52% of global mining ran on renewables or nuclear, up from 38% in 2022. Natural gas flares that once burned wastefully are now powering hash rate. The narrative is shifting, from energy hog to buyer of last resort green power. So, what changed exactly? Economics. Anyone with a phone can own an inflation-hedged asset. Finance. 24/7 settlement, finality in minutes. Politics. A tool for dissidents and presidents alike. Technology. Sparked smart contracts, NFTs, and DeFi, all from one anonymous PDF. Whether you love Bitcoin or loathe it, you can't ignore it. It rewrote the rulebook on who issues money, who controls it, and who gets to opt out. In 2009, Bitcoin was born, a breakthrough in digital money. But it had one job: send and receive value. What if we could take that one step further? What if we could program money to obey conditions, like a vending machine for agreements? That's where Ethereum enters the picture. A blockchain not just for sending value, but for creating logic. Ethereum began with a teenager. In 2013, a 19-year-old named Vitalik Buterin asked, What if a blockchain could be more than just money? What if it could run code, decentralized applications, digital agreements, autonomous organizations, without gatekeepers? His white paper became a manifesto. By 2015, Ethereum was live. Smart contracts are self-executing lines of code. They follow simple rules. If this happens, do that. For example, if Alice sends ETH, then release the file. No lawyers, no banks, just trustless logic. These contracts power everything from NFT sales to billion-dollar lending apps. Ethereum unlocked creativity. Now anyone could build their own token, start a lending platform, launch a game, or even create a DAO, a decentralized organization with no boss. Developers swarmed in, and Ethereum became the operating system of Web3. DeFi, decentralized finance, exploded. Platforms like Compound and Curve let users lend, borrow, and earn interest without a single bank. It was Wall Street, rebuilt with code. By 2021, billions were locked in DeFi protocols. Ethereum also made ownership digital. Suddenly, art, music, identity, even real estate could be tokenized. NFTs weren't just collectibles. They were proof of ownership you could verify and trade. Bitcoin is a fortress of value, predictable, secure, and limited by design. Ethereum is a flexible tool, adaptable, programmable, but more complex. One is digital gold, the other, a digital operating system. Ethereum's growth came with problems: high gas fees, network congestion. To solve this, Ethereum switched to proof of stake, cutting energy use by 99%. And Layer 2 networks like Arbitrum and Optimism made things faster and cheaper. Ethereum is no longer just an idea. It's a living, evolving infrastructure, securing finance, identity, and digital culture. From community funding to streaming payments, the use cases are only multiplying. Ethereum showed the world that crypto isn't just money. It's a platform for new rules, open, permissionless, and programmable. The question now isn't whether crypto has a future. It's, what will you build? Welcome to crypto's Wild West, the year 2017. Bitcoin had already captured the world's attention, but something new was brewing. Ethereum opened the floodgates. Suddenly, coins weren't just digital money. They were tickets to a whole new financial universe. Rocket emojis everywhere, coins mooning overnight. Twitter was on fire. Reddit threads ran for miles, and everyone, your cousin, your cab driver, your yoga teacher, wanted in. ICOs, initial coin offerings, became the new IPOs. No banks, no VCs, no gatekeepers. A project wrote a white paper, slapped up a website, and boom, millions raised in hours. All you needed was a pitch deck, a promise, and Ethereum. It was the digital gold rush. Some called it democratized fundraising. Others, a ticking time bomb. The barrier to entry? Basically zero. If you could deploy a smart contract, you could launch a token. And they did, thousands of them. Tokens for cloud storage, for dating apps, for dental insurance. Some projects were bold experiments. Others were thinly veiled cash grabs. Legit or not, coins were everywhere, and investors were buying anything that moved. And then came BitConnect. It promised 1% daily returns, guaranteed. Their conventions looked like tech raves. People cheered, leaders preached. But behind the scenes, a textbook Ponzi scheme. Eventually, it all collapsed, leaving lawsuits, memes, and wreckage in its wake. It became the cautionary tale of the ICO era. But not all ICOs were scams. Ethereum itself raised $18 million in 2014, long before the boom. Then came EOS, which broke records, over $4 billion raised. Projects like Filecoin, Tezos, and Brave pushed the space forward. Buried in the noise were signals of real innovation. The problem? Few could tell which was which. Then the grown-ups showed up. Regulators started paying attention, and they weren't amused. The SEC dropped the hammer on unregistered securities. Subpoenas flew. Projects disappeared overnight. It marked the start of a long and ongoing tug-of-war between crypto and the law. And the chaos didn't stop there. Exchange hacks drained millions. Pump and dump groups ran rampant. Some coins surged 1,000% in a day, only to vanish by the weekend. People got rich. Others lost everything. It was no longer about building. It was about betting. Builders clashed with gamblers. Communities splintered. Trust eroded. Culturally, it was pure madness. Crypto Twitter became the town square. Memes moved markets. YouTubers crowned themselves experts overnight. Telegram groups and Discord channels multiplied like wildfire. Influencers cashed in. Hype drowned out signal. Yet somehow, the movement kept growing. And still, amid the wreckage, came progress. The ICO craze proved that global, borderless crowdfunding was possible. DeFi, NFTs, DAOs, they all trace their roots back to this moment. The tools, the tech, the talent, it didn't vanish, it evolved. The boom exposed flaws, but also inspired a generation of builders. The ICO era wasn't just a mania, it was a movement, a spark that ignited the next phase of the crypto revolution. Messy? Absolutely. But it showed the world that the future of finance wouldn't be built in boardrooms. It would be built online, by coders, dreamers, and anyone bold enough to try. And we're only just getting started. You've heard the word 100 times. But what is a blockchain really? Not the hype, not the jargon, just the core idea, explained simply. It's not magic. It's not just for crypto. It's a foundational tool that may reshape how we interact with information, value, and trust. Picture a shared notebook. Everyone has a copy. Anytime someone writes a new line, all the copies update. No one can go back and change what was written. No one can lie. Everyone sees the truth because the notebook is everywhere. Blockchain gets its name from how it stores data, in blocks linked together. Each block contains a fingerprint or hash that connects it to the one before. If anything changes, the fingerprint breaks, alerting the network. That's how it stays tamper-proof. Instead of one master copy, blockchain copies exist on thousands of machines, globally. That's what makes it distributed. And since no single authority controls it, it's also decentralized. It's not about trusting one person, it's about trusting the network. Here's why it's revolutionary. No bank can change your balance. No company can delete your account. No government can quietly rewrite the rules. It makes corruption harder because there's no middleman. You trust the code. A blockchain can store anything: art, identity, property deeds, medical records, even votes. If it needs to be tamper-proof and verifiable, it belongs on a chain. Bitcoin is the original. Ethereum added programmability. Solana is fast. Avalanche is flexible. Each chain has strengths and trade-offs. But at the core, they're all shared ledgers, where no one's the boss. Blockchains aren't perfect. They can be slow. They use energy. Fees can spike. That's the trade-off of decentralization. But developers are solving this with upgrades, layer 2s, and greener chains. A blockchain isn't magic. It's just math and consensus. But it's powerful because it lets strangers cooperate without trusting each other. It's still evolving, still scaling. But one thing is clear, it's here to stay. Crypto promised freedom, but governments saw something else: risk, disruption, and a loss of control. To regulators, Bitcoin wasn't innovation, it was insurrection, a system outside their reach, a challenge to their monetary sovereignty. What happens when decentralized money threatens centralized power? What happens when no one is in control? At first, regulators were curious. Then came concern. News outlets blasted warnings: money laundering, terrorism, scams. Crypto, they said, was a threat to global finance. But was it really? Or was it simply uncontrollable? Behind the headlines was fear. Fear of losing control. Crypto ignored borders. It challenged their rules. They couldn't stop it. And that scared them most. In 2021, China banned crypto, mining, trading, everything. Hash power collapsed, miners scattered, exchanges shut down. Meanwhile in the US, confusion reigned. The IRS said crypto was property. The SEC said security. The CFTC said commodity. No one could agree, but everyone wanted authority. Crypto didn't care. It kept moving. Regulators scrambled, laws lagged behind, and the people kept building. In authoritarian regimes and failing economies, crypto became a lifeline. Whistleblowers, activists, journalists. Banks turned them away. Crypto didn't. Blockchains don't ask for ID. They ask for valid code. No permission needed, just connection. That's why it scares the gatekeepers. Because it works for the people they can't silence. Governments adapted. They launched CBDCs, central bank digital currencies, digital dollars, renminbi, euro. But these weren't decentralized. They were programmable. Freeze accounts, set expiry dates, track every transaction. They looked like crypto, but served control. not freedom. Crypto isn't perfect. It's volatile, chaotic, and misunderstood. But it flips the equation. In traditional finance, access is granted. With crypto, access is assumed. You don't need a bank, just a wallet. You don't apply, you participate. In a world of growing restrictions, that matters more than ever. The internet changed the world. It gave us instant connection, endless information, and global communication. But along the way, something else happened. A handful of tech giants took control of our data, our identities, even our attention. We became the product. Every click, every like, every login, tracked, stored, sold. But what if we could take the internet back? Web3 is the next evolution of the internet, built not on centralized servers, but on decentralized blockchains. It's an internet where you own your identity, your data, your digital life. No more relying on Facebook to log in, or trusting Google to store your info. Instead, you control the keys. The tools of Web3 are already here: smart contracts, tokens, wallets, DAOs, and NFTs. All working together to give power back to users, not platforms. Not just for developers or investors, but for everyone. DAOs, decentralized autonomous organizations, are internet-native groups that run on code. No bosses, no gatekeepers. Proposals are voted on. Rules are transparent. Everything happens on-chain. In Web3, your identity isn't tied to Google or Facebook. It's your wallet. You own your name, your rep, your history, not a platform. You choose what to share. You choose who to trust. NFTs aren't just profile pictures. They can be tickets, diplomas, memberships. They prove ownership and live in your wallet, portable, verifiable, and truly yours. Web3 isn't perfect. It's early, messy, UX is rough, scams exist. But the idea? A borderless, open internet that users own, not driven by ads or locked behind algorithms. Big tech won't give up control easily. But builders are rising. Tools are improving. Communities are growing. The vision is spreading. Web3 isn't just a tech upgrade. It's a new way of thinking, from renting to owning, from surveillance to sovereignty. The question isn't, can we build it? It's, will we? The world of money is changing. Fast. Cash is disappearing. Coins are becoming relics. More people now use smartphones than carry wallets. At the same time, crypto is exploding. What began as a fringe experiment is now part of a global conversation and $1 trillion market. The old financial system? It's scrambling to adapt. So what does the future of money look like? Who will issue it? Who will control it? And will the people have a choice? Bitcoin is the original alternative. Created in the aftermath of the 2008 crash, it was a response to broken banking. With a fixed supply and no central authority, Bitcoin is censorship-resistant, borderless, and inflation-proof. It's not ideal for fast payments, but that's not the point. Bitcoin is digital gold, a store of value, a hedge, and an insurance policy for uncertain times. It's money with rules, not rulers. Governments have noticed crypto's rise, and they're responding. Enter CBDCs, central bank digital currencies. These are state-backed digital versions of fiat money. Issued directly by central banks, CBDCs promise speed, automation, and efficiency. But unlike Bitcoin, they're not decentralized. They put more control in the hands of governments, not less. And that has major implications. CBDCs come with powerful tools and dangerous trade-offs. Governments could track every transaction, freeze funds instantly, even program money to expire. Convenience, yes, but at what cost? Privacy becomes optional. Freedom, negotiable. In the wrong hands, CBDCs could shift financial power from citizens to states, permanently. Then there's the third option, stablecoins. Digital tokens pegged to stable assets like the US dollar. Some are backed by fiat, others by crypto collateral. USDC, Tether, DAI. They're fast, programmable, and borderless. Unlike CBDCs, they don't come from governments, and they're already in use around the world. Each system plays a role. Bitcoin stores value. Stablecoins move money. CBDCs offer control. Together, they form a new financial stack. But they also create tension between freedom and authority, between open systems and state-backed ones. This isn't just about payment speed or technology. It's about power. If governments control the rails, they control who can use them. Financial access, privacy, autonomy. all at stake. Do we get to choose the future of money? Or will it be decided for us? Money shapes society. It encodes values. If we don't define the next era of money, someone else will, and they might not prioritize freedom. The infrastructure we choose today decides who benefits tomorrow. Bitcoin, CBDCs, stablecoins. One is freedom. One is control. One is a bridge. The future of money isn't written yet, but it's being coded right now. From Cypherpunks to CBDCs, we've explored the ideas, tools, and tensions shaping the future of money. What comes next is up to us. We've only scratched the surface, and there's so much more to uncover in future series. If you've enjoyed this journey, stick around. We drop daily crypto news shorts, deep dives, and more. You won't want to miss it. Please like and subscribe, and click the notification bell to stay plugged in.